We are back. New York City Baseball, past, present, and future. My co-host is Marty Rose, Jacksonville, Florida, and joined by the jack of all trades at Comfortably Zoned Radio. He is the trivia maven. He has a special segment on weighted donuts on that show. He is one of the three Meshuggah baseball fans, and that is a quote from Peter Golenbach. He describes us as that on the Peter Golenbach show. So Alan gets a lot of airtime, as rightly so. You're an incredible maven. So welcome back to where it all began for you on the station.
Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah, it's you're incredible with your knowledge, and I remember thinking early on as a kid when somebody said, "Well, that's just trivia. It's baseball trivia." Well, it's not trivial. It may be trivia, but it's not trivial.
Trivia and minutia.
Right, exactly.
Very big difference.
Very, very big difference. Anyway, it's a Mets show, and we got to talk about their demise.
Okay.
Hats off to
Ralph. Just wanted to let you know that Jason Worth for Washington had a home run at the top of the eighth inning, and they're leading the Dodgers 5-3.
Okay. I don't know who to root for on that one.
I
was holding out hopes that the Giants...
He doesn't think they're going to win it.
Pardon me?
I have a very close friend who's a Dodger fan, and he doesn't think they're going to beat Washington.
Oh, well...
they needed to win today. I mean, Maeda had nothing.
I know. I'm surprised they left them in that long.
Yeah, well...
I was holding out hope that the Giants and Dodgers would get to play a significant playoff round, just for old time's sake. Yeah,
that's a long shot now.
Yeah, very.
It certainly is on two ends. But I put a little posting on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network Facebook page, and I said, first of all, hats off to Bochy. He for a very, very significant reason, he had the chance, even after Gillespie's miracle home run, this, that, and the other thing, he had the chance because Nunez, the guy that they got in a trade, or I don't remember how
they got a trade from the Twins.
From the Twins, good ball player, coming off the DL. He keeps going, does Bochy, with Gillespie, and I think he played as Collins, it worked out for him. You play the player that's hot, and
he hit the home run against the Mets, right?
Yeah, he did. Indeed.
Yeah.
But I think the Giants made a terrible signing with Samaja. I wasn't surprised that Tyko was clobbered the other day.
Yeah, that didn't look good. That didn't look good. I want to ask you guys. Obviously, you remember Hobie Landreth, first round draft pick of the Mets in the expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with him on Tim Haller's show. He and I did the other night on his Giants baseball show on the network. And Hobie's like 85, and he's just as quick and as articulate. I'm going to try to get him to come on this show. He was nice enough to give us about 45 minutes of recollections of those days. And what I'm getting at is this. He talked a lot about Casey Stengel. He wasn't with the Mets very, very long. He was traded for Marv, and I think it was in May, if I'm not mistaken, or So he didn't play very long, but he did go to spring training, and he talked about Casey in spring training, and there were file footage of him taking the entire team and walking them around the infield. What you do at first base, what you do here, and giving them tips. And he was incredible with his recollection of Casey, what he said at each base, how to cut the corner, what to watch for, how to hold guys on. Then he'd take the whole team, 40 guys, he'd march him to second base, and he'd talk about second base. He'd talk about the pivot and throwing a double play, sliding in, and this, that, and the other thing. And he had 40 old veterans mostly, with the exception of the guys who were AAA players or cast-offs. He had them with their mouth open for like an hour, going from base to base, talking about different situations. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is I want you guys to tell me if that doesn't go against what we heard about Casey being either with it or without it by the time he got to the Mets.
Casey,
everything I remember, he was just like a public relationship guy, this, that, and the other thing, and
Casey,
talking to the writers.
Yeah.
But he was talking as if Casey was just incredibly involved in the moment-to-moment happenings, at least in spring training. Do you guys remember that? And I'll start with Alan.
Essentially was a teacher.
Okay.
Okay. He loved, since he didn't have any children, the younger players essentially became his children, and he loved to teach them. And because he had been through it all, he managed the Braves and the Dodgers for 9 years before he came to the Yankees, with very limited, if any, success.
Right.
And he was successful in the AAA a few times when he managed there, and he was essentially a teacher. He was a prodigy of John McGraw. When he finally got to the Giants in 1923, may have been earlier, may have been 21 or 22. He got to the Giants, and he became a disciple of McGraw. And that's where he learned about.
He would listen and take it all in at that time.
He came up to the major leagues in, I think it was 1916. I'm sorry, 1912, I think it was. And so he played in the dead ball era. And he played during the transition from the dead ball era to the live ball era. So he was a total fountain of knowledge of the insides of the game. And one of his disciples, of course, was Billy Martin.
Right.
But Casey had a much smoother temperament than Billy Martin did, obviously. And Casey,
he had fewer demons, or at least
he
controlled them better.
Casey with the reputation with the writers that he would bring them all in, and he would nurse a drink for however long, and the writers would all get smashed. And the story is that when he had something serious to say to his ball players, he never used double talk.
Right.
That was the Bengalese was strictly for the writers.
That's interesting because, Ralph, I remember the way you thought.
Yeah.
That
right.
When he was let go by the Yankees, we were all led to believe that he lost his fastball. He doesn't have it anymore, and it's just going to be like entertainment value. It's for laughs. Maybe they want to win a couple of games. But I don't think any of us were led to believe that he still had it together that much as what Hobie Landreth said to you.
Well,
yeah, wow. I'm going to send you guys a link to that show. And the RDI out there, please go to the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network website. It's comfortablyzonedradio.com. And the interview was posted within the last week. Just plug in Hobie Landreth or scan the posts. It was such a shock to me that he was, like we both remembered the same thing. I remember Howard Cosell and Jackie Robinson being so mad at the Mets for just being like clowns and not taking winning that seriously. He took winning seriously. He took winning and losing even with the Mets. I'm sure he didn't. He just wasn't sitting back. He knew the handwriting on the wall, probably the second day of spring training when he saw guys like Gus Bell and Richie Ashburn, who was their most valuable player. He was a shadow of his former self, not anywhere near as fast, and much less range in center. They had Hickman playing there a lot, as a matter of fact.
Casey hated...
and all these guys were banged up. Pardon me?
Casey and Cosell hated each other.
Yeah, right.
There was a time where Cosell asked he was being taped with Cosell, and Cosell asked him a question he didn't like. So Casey said he said the F word to ruin Cosell's video and scratch audio, and to scratch his ass to ruin the video. He did not suffer badly.
Not too many people like Cosell.
Well, one of the reasons that the Yankees let Casey go was because they wanted to retain Ralph Houck. Now, Houck was a coach, and he had managed successfully in AAA. And Dan Topping, who was one of the owners of the Yankees at that point, was in love with Houck. And they were afraid Houck was going to get managerial offers elsewhere. And they got rid of Casey Stengel and George Weiss at the same time. And and Weiss was hired as GM of the Mets and control of baseball operations, or whatever you want to call that. And he brought Stengel in because Stengel knew that they knew the team was going to be lousy, and he was brought in basically for public relations. They asked Casey where the Mets would finish that year, and he said in Chicago on September 30th.
So he's still pretty much
had it. Yeah, he had it. He was very sarcastic when he felt it was necessary.
Right. Well, I remember some of the really funny things, but I didn't associate him still having it with those early Met years. Remember that Hall of Fame coaching staff, Roger Hornsby.
Hornsby dropped that right before the 63 season.
Right, exactly. According to legend, wasn't a very good coach. Wasn't very good.
Hornsby was not a very nice individual.
Right. Resented guys like Roger Maris. Yeah. I remember how he stiffed Roger Maris.
Yeah.
Pictures and attention
and
in spring training.
By comparison, he made Ty Cobb seem like a saint. That's very hard to do.
Right. Well, yes, all the stories about Ty Cobb. You want to hear something that flashed in my head, Mert? You'll appreciate this, because we're about to turn 70. Casey made a speech Casey was asked for a reaction when they fired him. He says, "I'll never make the mistake of turning 70 again."
There's a book that came out a number of years ago. You can probably get it off eBay for not too much money, called The Gospel According to Casey. It gives you all the quotes, and they break it up by era.
Whoa. Oh, I definitely have to look for that. Everybody out there?
Probably out there on eBay, and it shouldn't be very expensive. Maybe $12, $13 at the most.
Right. Let me just say there's a book out there called The Little Blue Book of Baseball or something. It's about Branch Rickey, the same thing.
Yeah.
Quotes. I don't know. It's a small book, a very small hardback, but it is great. All of his terrific quotations and things that people said about him, just very concise, very succinct, and a terrific book.
In fact, our local Sabre chapter is named for Casey because Casey had played with the Giants, managed the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets. They played with the Dodgers also. We came up with them.
I remember too. He said when they hired him with the Mets, he said he didn't even know their name. He called them the Knickerbockers.
Yes,
that sticks out in my head as is he with it? But apparently he is, and I'll be ready with it next show. I'll have a clip from that show. I'm going to run it here about the audio of the interview I did with Hobie Landreth and Tim Haller, and it just puts Casey in a different light than I ever remember him being mentioned, and just that Mert doesn't remember it either makes it so. He didn't get much press for his teaching abilities, and you described it. He came up with the instructional league, Casey Stengel's invention. That wasn't a McGraw thing or a Branch Rickey thing. That was a Casey thing.
Yeah.
And
to teach these kids and prepare them if they had the ability to play in the major leagues.
Right.
There's a very funny story when they were playing the Dodgers in the '52 World Series. Before the first game there, Casey was leading Mickey Mantle around the outfield. So showing how to play the caroms. If the ball hit there, it'll go this way, that way. And Mantle looks at him incredulously, says, "You mean you played here?" And Casey said, "What do you think? I was born 60 years old?" Mantle couldn't conceive of Casey ever being that young.
Right. When one is young, one cannot conceive of older folks being young in their day. I was just telling Tally, I said, way back then, I was something. I wasn't just an old man. And she goes, yes, you weren't. You were just, you weren't any different. I'm blessed with the idea. Nobody could say that I'm over the hill because there never was a hill.
Yeah.
So it's great. I'm just easing into the end without disturbing anything. Nobody notices a difference. No drop off in that man's productivity. He damn sure never had any to begin with. So it makes getting older real easy. I hate to get to it, but we got to get to the end of the Mets season. And looking back, we're going to look back. This is going to be one of the overachieving Met teams, given their injuries. So let's start out by going to opening day, or right before opening day, and looking at their team from top to bottom and going over the injuries a little bit, okay? Pitching staff, Harvey, Thor, Matz. Yeah, you were hoping to get back. Pardon me?
DeGrom.
You had DeGrom, and to say nothing of Cologne as going in your fifth starter. and hoping to get back the kid from the Giants, who I can never think of his name, who never did get back. The pitcher.
Oh, Wheeler.
Wheeler. You're right.
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler. All right. From that, let's examine the pitching staff at the very end. Okay? Names like Lugo, Gazelman. I mean, they were let's not underplay those guys. We've talked about it in the last few weeks, Mert. Those guys have been a terrific addition.
Oh, there's no chance they make the wild card without those guys. No chance.
Right.
So after Verrett had blown up, they had to find somebody.
Yeah, they were counting on him. He had nothing. Boy, he really bombed down. That was unfortunate.
He hurt them a lot. I can't think of two games that he gave them, if one, that where he was anything but crappy. Maybe the first couple of games.
Maybe.
After that, nothing.
Yeah.
Now you go around the horn. First base. Let's start with first base.
Dude is out for the whole year, basically.
Yeah, basically. And now we give Alderson a little credit. He goes out, and on the cheap, you get a guy with major league experience, clogged up San Diego situation. He's playing AAA ball. They pick him up. He's very solid.
That was a terrific pickup.
Yeah, well,
no question.
Yeah.
Give him that. Second base turns out, after Walker's terrific play, his injury turns out, followed by Flores' injury at second base. Now we're talking another long shot comes out of nowhere, basically, but a Wally Backman protege, Backman said this guy's an overachiever and can play in the big leagues, and he was hitting like 380 down there, if not 400. And he comes up here and he hits 340, so you get a miracle out of Rivera.
Yeah.
Shortstop.
That's true.
Shortstop, great signing by Alderson, and Cabrera just gave him a wonderful year.
He was great all year. Yep.
Yeah. Great all year. Power, solid in the field. That was terrific. Now you go to third base.
Unexpected power, I think. Did you know he could hit that many home runs?
No,
I didn't.
No, and I didn't know he had as much range as he has. And you know what? Range doesn't matter as much as where you play, positioning, and first step quickness. Isn't necessary that if you're in the right position, if you react quickly, which you may not lose. There's a difference between range and that quick first.
Well, I think range is overrated. It's very overrated because ranges are a lot dependent on the type of pitches you have.
Right.
You know, the 50s, Richie Ashburn used to lead the National League every year in chances. Was he better than Duke Snyder or Willie Mays out there? No, he had pitchers.
He was, if you look at his stats, his Bill James stats, defensively, was he better than? He didn't have the arm, but he probably had more range than any of those guys. He was fast. He had a lot of chances.
Fast, but Robin Roberts was a fly ball pitcher. The others they had.
That's true.
Fly ball pitchers. So of course, if you had more fly balls, they'll catch more fly balls.
Well, that's a very good point. I can't argue that at all. So that negates a lot of those stats because basically they're determined on the type of pitching staff that you have. And two, the Phillies, other than Roberts, weren't noted for their great pitching.
No.
So you would get a lot of balls hit far and deep. That's a very good point, Alan.
Thank you.
That's all I can do is point it out. You are the Maven's Maven. And even the mediocre guy's Maven. Mert, I'll let you handle third base and the right situation.
Third base, yeah, really. Well, I mean, I got to say that David
Wright. Did we expect much of Wright coming in? Did we expect? Should have we been shocked?
Well, I mean, nobody could have expected he was going to need neck surgery. You know, that was totally off the wall. But I mean, just watching him out there prior to that injury, just playing with the spinal stenosis, he can't throw the ball to first base correctly. You know, he has to throw it almost underhand.
Yeah, like a
sidearm. You noticed that, right? He had to throw it almost underhand or sidearm, and he doesn't get a lot. He wasn't getting a lot on the ball, and you know, guys were basically beating out ground balls to third base. So that's a liability there. You know,
do either of you guys expect him to play a part in the Mets' future?
No.
Well, he seems to think he's coming back, but he's got a lot of money coming to him.
I have spinal stenosis. I have a friend of mine that has spinal stenosis, and it limits your ability to move with any sort of flexibility.
Yeah, I don't expect that much. If they didn't have so many guys at first base, I would think that they could probably move him there where he wouldn't have to throw as much. But they got a lot of guys at first base all of a sudden. Even talking about Conforto at first base. So, yeah, I don't know what they're going to do there. But, you know, all I got to say about Reyes is he was a lifesaver over there.
Signing him.
He was very good.
Alderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving Alderson a lot of credit for
Price was right. You know, again, they paid the minimum, and he got the job done. They had no speed at all. They put him right in there in the leadoff spot, and he really did well. He really did. So.
And you know, we're not in the locker room, so there's no way of really knowing for certain. This guy's personality can't hurt over a long season.
No, he's always bubbly, you know, enthusiastic all the time. Yeah,
gotta love that, and he's happy to be back. It was terrible circumstances for him.
That's why you got to hand it to Alderson for signing him, regardless of that, you know.
Right.
So, but I assume that he had to get an okay from the Wilpons, you know. But I guess everybody said go for it, and it paid off.
Well,
sure.
The Wilpons might have been looking at it for seats in the butts in the seats.
Well, that's true. They always do.
But I can't blame them for, you know, it has to be a tandem. You can't just be good and not appreciate it, because if so, that you know, the money flow doesn't happen unless there are butts in the seats. I will say this before we get to the outfield. I think the Mets won over New York this year. They won over New York. You know what I'm saying?
They did. Yeah, they did.
Which is nice to see. And I'm not wishing the Yankees ill will. I think they did very, very, very well by unloading the players that they did and basically soft selling the fact that they're rebuilding.
Yeah, well, they reloaded the farm system, you know,
I thought
they want to make any trades.
I thought the
Miller
trade was very big because he did a tremendous job for the Indians so far. and still had him under contract for 2 more years. The other 2 were going to be free agents, Chapman and Beltran. Those trades were no-brainers.
Yeah, didn't they get a handful of guys from
They got a couple
Miller?
of guys from Cleveland, unless they're the second coming of Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and they didn't even bring these guys up when the minor league season ended. So who knows how good these guys are going to be? It's to me that particular one where I didn't like at all.
Well, they ended up getting an 18-year-old shortstop that could make all the.
Francis can't close. He's not temperamentally suited for closing.
Yeah, that's.
Well, they could always get Chapman back, you know.
Yeah.
If they want to spend that kind of money.
The funny part is, or the unfunny, that they are so enriched that they could go out and get him back very, very easily.
But will they have the kind of team next year where they need a closer like that? You know, if they're playing all these kids next year over the course of a whole season, that could be a problem. You know,
that's true.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing in a short period of time at the end of the year, I mean, outside of the catcher, that kid that looks like he's going to be a superstar, is Sanchez. The other guys, they look okay, but over the whole course of a season, remains to be seen. So,
hey, their shortstop is terrific.
Oh yeah, he's very good, no question about it. Yeah,
no question about that. And,
let's get back to the Mets, man. Let's talk about catcher. I think catcher needs to be talked about. I mean, wow.
But I like what I see about Rivera. He had a weird playoff game against the Giants. He made I don't remember what inning, but he screwed up 2 or 3 times, and it cost him a little bit. But after that, he made an incredible grab on a ball in the dirt where he shifted his body well, and he got just enough glove on it. But he throws guys out. He holds guys on. He hits better than the 2 catches with it.
Yeah, there's no question he's better than Darno. There's no question. The other guy's never proved himself that he's a major leaguer either.
Kolecki?
The third guy.
Yeah. Kolecki.
So,
they may have to go out. I thought they'd get LaCroix, the guy from Milwaukee.
Yeah. Well, didn't happen.
They got as far. Had they gotten him, they couldn't have gotten any further than they got at the end of the season. I mean, they were given everything when they were looking at him, and they were down in the dumps.
Right.
Come back.
They weren't going to overtake Washington.
Right. They won the home. They weren't going to beat Washington. They got the home field advantage, and given all those injuries, haven't even gotten to the outfield because the only center fielder that I think they had that could give them a little speed and a little bit of not a base stealer per se, but nice to have him on the bases, was Lagares, and easily the best defensive outfielder they had. I'm convinced now that Cespedes is a left fielder, and I don't know how he won the Gold Glove.
I was wondering about that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Did he bring it with him from Cuba? Some deal brought something from Cuba?
38 games the whole year at first base.
Who's that?
Rafael Palmeiro.
Oh, yes.
Won a Golden Glove by playing 38 games at first base and playing the rest of the years at DH.
It's popularity contest, reputation.
Yeah, my skepticism about Golden Gloves is well off the charts with that one.
Right. But when just as I say that, I think Cespedes made some. He's good coming in, but he's not good going out. That's how I can describe Cespedes. He makes excellent plays, shoestring catches, and but going out, he gets flablunched, right?
Yeah, he does. He doesn't hustle all the time either,
I know. I don't think his head's quite in the game as much as it should be.
Well, they're paying him $27.5 million a year. So, take what you get with that.
Well, look, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but their one-loss record with him in the lineup versus their one-loss record with him not in the lineup is stark different.
Yes.
Really different.
Which brings us to Bruce, because and the decision they've got to make, what's going on. Granderson gave him 30-plus home runs.
59 RBIs.
Quietly.
Well, he's got one more year.
He tied with Yawko of the Cardinals for record low RBIs with 30 home runs.
Yeah. Well, look, he was leading off for a good part of the year, but his hitting with runners in scoring position for the first half of the year was like about 100. So it was terrible.
As far as I could, was he the only one? He was the only regular that didn't get on the DH or was hurt? I'm not mistaken.
He's the only regular that was not on the DL for at least some time during the year. That is true. Yeah.
Kudos to that in the season where it seems that nobody got polio. That's the only thing you could on the medical front. That's the best you could say about this year, because pitching, position players, incredible. Even Collins went to the hospital for a night or two. Had discomfort.
That's right.
It was a horrible season from that standpoint. So overall, they're going to look back, or we're going to look back and say, given all the injuries, given everything, they made the playoffs, and they gave us something to talk about all year, which...
Yeah, absolutely.
How could you beat that? I was corrected. I thought that this was the first time in Met history, that they made the playoffs 2 years in a row. And I think it was Ronald Harvin who reminded me that
1999 and 2000.
Right.
It was the Braves. That was the Armando Benitez special. And 2000 World Series against the Yankees.
Yes. All right, gentlemen. This has been terrific. As usual, I enjoy chatting with you immensely, guys. And
Marty,
we will do it again next week. We won't spoil it. We
can talk about who may not be back next season.
Absolutely.
Marty, you came out all right with
some of the contracts and stuff like that.
Marty, you came out all right with the hurricane?
I was okay. This area really got hammered badly. The coastal, the beach area got hammered. St. Augustine, which is like 40 minutes south of here, the water, the whole town. Well, the whole town was evacuated because it's very low lying, and there was just water going through the whole town. And Jacksonville, which a lot of people aren't really aware of, besides the beach, it's got several beaches, but it's got the St. Johns River that comes off the ocean and goes. It's quite a large river, and the downtown part of Jacksonville is right on the river, and they have a very, very big entertainment center there called Jacksonville Landing. And the water, because of the storm surge, the water in the river rose to a point where it was coming up the steps.
Wow.
There was like about 4 or 5 steps. People, stroll, walk down when it's a nice day. It's very pretty. But the water just didn't quite make it up to the last step, which if it would have done that, the whole downtown would have been flooded.
Wow.
Similar to what we saw in New York during Sandy.
Yeah.
If you remember that, there's water everywhere. Yeah, so luckily, my particular case, I'm a half hour from the beach area, and we were okay. But
Glad to hear that.
Usual amount of rain and wind, but luckily, and the power stayed on the whole time.
Whole time,
which is shocking. Yeah, cable went out for a bit Friday night, came back Saturday morning, but like 50% or more of the county that I'm in lost power, but my particular neighborhood was good. So there you go. Thanks for asking.
Beautiful.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yep. All good.
Till that time, guys.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Alan, Ralph.
For you all out there to keep on keeping on, because that's what we're doing. See ya.
Okay, Ralph. Say hello to Tally for me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.